going on, Jerome? It's a beautiful Thursday. Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another Vikings news dump. So, of course, this week, Senior Bowl practice is going on, and just funny things. Mike Green's going to be a bad dude. Now, Mike Green setting records at Marshall, putting up sacks, undersized, do not care. Like, he should and could be a top 10 pick, and he's going to do great things in the National Football League. Like, honestly, do not care at all. Mike Green is just going to be a mofo. Also, some Senior Bowl standouts. So you got Shamar Stewart, who would look pretty damn nice as a 5-tech for the Minnesota Vikings. Walter Nolan, penetration king. Also great against the run. Just a whirling dervish of energy. Plus, Mac McWilliams. That's a UCF, formerly at UAB. He's the king of the acronyms, but he's a feisty inside-out cornerback, and it kind of stinks that the Vikings don't have a ton of draft picks, but it is what it is. And the Vikings certainly could trade down. Well, if they trade down, they're probably going to be out of range for Stewart and Nolan. Well, they could be off the board anyway. McWilliams probably playing himself in the day 2 conversation, but this is a good draft. This is a good-ass draft for specifically what the Vikings need. It's a bad draft if you need a quarterback, but yeah, so it is what it is. Also is what it is. So ESPN, the worldwide bleeder, Chris Mad Dog Russo, was a Mike and the Mad Dog from back in the day? That's a win, dog. That's a loss. So, up a list of the most tortured fan bases in the National Football League. Top five. Vikings check in at 3. Also, you got the Jets, the Bears, the Browns, and the Bills. And the Browns and the Bills are ahead of the Vikings. Now, got some issue with this. Number one, of course, the Vikings never win anything. Like, they can't even be the worst at being, or the best at being the worst. Happens. But, so the Bills, I feel like a lot of this is recency bias. Now, if you did this poll in like the 80s, the Browns would be it. They'd be 1-1 with the John Elway drive, with the Ernest Biner fumble, all that. Because you forget, the Browns, like the Marty Schottenheimer Browns, they were damn good. They were consistently making the AFC title games and all that stuff. And Belichick got there. He even won a playoff game in Cleveland. All right, so, but the Browns, so they were great way back in the day, like when it was like the Associated Football Teams of America or whatever, like Paul Brown beating up on the Canton Bulldogs. Cool. But with the Bills, obviously 4 straight Super Bowls, that's rough. And also these last couple years banging up against the Chiefs and Mahomes, also kind of rough. But tortured, I don't know. I feel like Bills Mafia is fine, right? But what separates the Vikings is that the Vikings haven't had sustained runs of just being bad, right? The Bills have in the late 90s, early 2000s. The Browns certainly have had some downtime as well. Hell, you could put the Lions on this list as well, right? But the Vikings are a special type of torture, and I think they should be one. Obviously, I'm biased, but the Vikings, like we said, they've never had a stretch where they've just been bad. They've had down years, but stretches where they're just 3-4 wins, that doesn't happen in team history. Like, they are up, they're winning the division like once every 3 years, and double-digit wins, 14 wins, 15 wins, 1 seed, and then you just 0-4 in Super Bowls. What was it 4 in 6 years? I think it was, and then the Drew Pearson push-off, and then the Darren Nelson drop, and then you got the 98 Vikings, you got the 41 donut, and all of this nonsense. That's rough. It's really rough, man. Yeah, 09, 2017. I guess you can include 2024 now. It's great. Where that is the definition of torture. Where it's like the old British saying from Ted Lasso. It's the hope that kills you. And I mean, the Vikings will get your hopes up. And yeah, I mean, the Bills had that too in the 90s, and now a stretch run here with Josh Allen. But it's been very down throughout most of Bills' history. It was like Jack Kemp, and then they were really bad, and then OJ, and then Marv Levy and Jim Kelly and whatnot. But the Jets, I mean, the Jets have just been terrible. They've just been atrocious. Like there was a little bit of blip there with Rex, a good defense, mainly because of Mike Pettin. But also going to 2 AFC title games with Mark Sanchez. But the draft pick misses, the bad coaches, the just whatever. But they won a Super Bowl. Like, they won Super Bowl 3. But it's almost like most fans don't even remember that. Probably because it was a long time ago. And then the Bears, I mean, the Bears have been, the Bears don't The Bears haven't had a 4,000-yard passer in team history. We just had one in Sam Darnold. Just like 4,300 yards, no problem, right? But the Bears had one of the most dominant seasons in NFL history, the 85 Bears. All right, so they had a decent stretch. I mean, also you could say statistically the 86 Bears was even better than the 85 Bears defense, even without Buddy Ryan, who took the Eagles job, right? But, I mean, Bears fans, I wouldn't say tortured. It's been bad. It's been a stretch. But what is worse, just being consistently bad and knowing that you're out of it by the end of September, or this is going to be the year, this is going to be it, this is going to be it, baby. I don't know. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think I know what's up. Also, knowing what's up. So, the safety position, still TBD. What Kwesi's going to do here. It's not seen as a premium position in the grand scheme of things, but if you can get impact players at that spot, all for it, man. And the Vikings, they have a couple free agents. Well, Harrison Smith is a de facto free agent because if he's on the rooster on the third day of the new league year, they owe him $25 million fully guaranteed in 2026. Not that I checked. And also, you got Cam Beasley-Bynum, who's a free agent. Now, if the Vikings decide to pass or Harrison retires, what about bringing in a certain player that Brian Flores drafted in the second round? Number 36 overall, the pride of Oregon, a guy who's developed into one of the best safeties in the National Football League, Javon Holland. What the Vikings bring him in? Now, it's going to be a very large contract, but we're talking about a game wrecker like a Jesse Bates III, absolute playmaker, just waiting to happen, and also a guy who's got nothing but love for Brian Flores. When Flores was hired here with the Vikings, Holland definitely went out of his way to give props to Brian Flores. He was the guy who drafted him. He was the guy who set him up for success early with the Dolphins, and I love it. So I'd be, if the Vikings decide to go down this route, decide to save the money on Harrison Smith, on Cameron Beasley-Bynum, just like Javon Holland, come on down, I'd be all for it, man. So you get, I like Beasley a lot, but Holland is just a better player. He's definitely more impactful, and also tailor-made for what Flores wants to do because Flores drafted him. So there you go. Next. So we've had this discussion over the last couple weeks where, the media sites and then some of the draft simulators, well, it goes back and forth. If the Vikings had a 7th-round pick conditionally from the Pittsburgh Steelers, essentially as part of the Jesse Davis trade. Now we got some clarity. Judd Zulgad, a few NFL draft simulators, PFF is one, and listings have the Vikings with a 7th-round pick from Pittsburgh from the Jesse Davis trade in 2022. The Vikings do not have the pick. It was conditional, and the conditions were not met. Conditions like were playing time, and Jesse Davis signed with the Vikings in 2022, was in training camp with them, did not even make the 53, was traded to the Steelers before the start of the season, but then he didn't play. All right. And also he looks like Ron Swanson, who made that joke in training camp at the time. But the whole thing about it is that now the Vikings just have a 1-3 and a 5-5. A first, a third, 2 fifths. Somewhere Rick Spielman is crying because he loves them the 7th-round picks, but sort of is what it is. But now we finally got some clarity there, so now we could just remove that from all the mock drafts. Great. Also great. So the Vikings, they definitely need to hammer the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, something that we've been saying for years. But the Vikings, they haven't really gotten after things. Alec Lewis, the Athletic. A Vikings thing that absolutely blows my mind in the last 20. Now, first off, Alec Lewis has been in the market for like 3 years. I want to say, so he doesn't really know the history. Only 4 times has the team used a first-rounder on interior offensive line, so center or guard, or interior defensive line. A defensive tackle when the Vikings were 4-3, or nose tackle and a 5-tech DN in the 3-4. Right. So Bradbury 2019, Sharif Floyd 2013. Sharif would have worked out except for the surgery botched. Kevin Williams, HOF, should be HOF, and then Chris Hoven. I feel like Chris Hoven. I feel like he should have been extended longer past his rookie deal. He ended up in Tampa Bay, but just love the face paint. Probably Bass in college. It was good. But yeah, the Vikings, they haven't hammered this as much as you would like. Now, they have sunk quite a bit of day 2 draft capital into especially guards. You look at Pat Elflein and Ezra Cleveland. Drew Samia was a 4th-round pick and all that stuff. Maybe not so much. But look at the Eagles. Consistently plopping down 1st-round picks. Jordan Davis, Jalen Cotta, your 3rd-round pick on Milton Williams. Just consistently getting after things up front. That's exactly what they need to do. All right, so hopefully that's a lesson for Kwesi. And the Vikings, they put out an interesting hype video. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell talking to the camera. KOC just extended. Kwesi probably coming up soon. And talking about the foundation of the 2024 season. Young players starting to figure things out, understanding that we have a foundation built. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, blah, 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 shows the results, but they're also right. And you do have to walk before you run. You do have to crawl before you walk. And you've seen this throughout NFL history where for a long time, the Giants of the 80s couldn't beat the 49ers. Right? Then eventually they did, and then the Giants won a couple of Super Bowls. And then, the Cowboys of the 90s, they couldn't beat the 49ers either, and then eventually they did. And then, dynasties don't really sprout out of nowhere except for the Patriots. It's kind of what it is, man. And right now you see the Buffalo Bills, they can never beat the Chiefs. Eventually, will they beat the Chiefs? It's possible. And with the Vikings, this young roster learning to win together, learning to win these one-score games, getting a taste of success, it's important. All right, and sometimes getting humbled is part of that journey as well. It's like you understand that you don't want to feel this way ever again. So you're going to bust your ass in the offseason, and the Vikings and Kwesi are going to assemble all the talent in the world, rebuild those trenches, get nasty about things, and then just go from there. And also got J.J. McCarthy, so they're going to be good to go. Lastly, so shout out to powerful Rushford, Minnesota. All right, so Pelissero, the Jets agreed to terms with Lions tight ends coach Steve Hayden as their new offensive line coach per South, with Tanner Engstrand, blah, 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 blah. So Steve Hayden went to Rushford Peterson High School, the same school that I went to way back in the day. He's significantly older. Just look at him. Yeah. But Hayden played back in the day at South Dakota State, was a third-round pick by the Chargers, and then he went to the Browns. Actually had a very productive and prodigious NFL career. He had 14 career touchdowns, more of a blocking tight end, more of an H-back from back in the day. We need to get back to having H-backs. That's what we need, man. And then he got into coaching. He was on staff with the Cardinals, I think quite a bit. Yeah, he was a BA guy, which is fantastic. Then he's bounced around the league a little bit, ended up on Dan Campbell's staff. Now heads out to the Jets with Aaron Glenn. It's good to go. But shout out. I'm pretty sure no, my uncle also played in the NFL. So there's 2 NFL players from Rushford. Would have been 3 except the coaches had it out for me. Or I would have been something if I didn't hurt my knee. That's the standard line, isn't it? Anyways, but yeah, shout out Steve Hayden. Glad you're out of the division. Also, hey, he's the reason why Sam Laporta didn't suck ass coming on in. Because there's a hierarchy of Iowa Hawkeye tight ends where it is TJ Hawkinson, then Kittle, Fant, and Laporta down here. Long time. Anyways, that's it. Vikings news dump on this wonderful Thursday. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol, production value.